Okay, so just sit yourself onto your lift and then come into a good cross leg position. So just feel that you are sitting evenly and just spend a little time just to establish the even levelness of the seat bones. So just hold on to your knees, elevate your heart area upwards, drawing your shoulders down, and just establish whether or not you definitely feel level. And after being there for a moment or two, just see if you can just readjust if necessary, so that you start from levelness in the seat bones. So elevate the heart area upwards, draw your shoulders down away from your ears. Spend a few moments just listening to the breath, feeling the lungs from the bottom to the top, and emptying your lungs from the top to the bottom. Again, just after being there for a little while longer, just maybe you realise that you're not as level as you thought you were, so adjust if necessary. And then release the knees, bring your hands into Namaste, lengthening the armpits away from the torso, lengthening from the armpits into the elbows, squeezing the elbows in towards each other, and then lengthen from the heels of the hands to the fingertips. And then with an exhalation, allow your eyes to gently close. Just focus on the inhalation and exhalation. Filling the lungs from the bottom to the top, emptying your lungs from the top to the bottom. Just focusing on the physiological effects of the breath. And with an exhalation, draw your chin down to meet your chest. Lift your chest up to meet your chin. Just listen to the breath. And just spend a moment to seek to generate a genuine, heartfelt sense of gratitude for something or someone or somewhere. Just hold on to that feeling of abundance in the heart area, and then just release the backs of your hands down toward your knees, palms facing upwards. And then as you raise your head, allow your eyes to softly open and the focus to softly come back. Just hold onto your knees, elevating your heart area up towards the ceiling. Take a deep inhalation and then turn to the right side, drawing your abdomen across so that the belly button points at that right knee and beyond. Just maintaining your connection with the breath, using the out breath to just turn a little more deeply. Just being conscious of the feeling of the pose. And then come back to the center, lift up into the heart area, elevating the heart area, broadening the chest. Take a deep inhalation and turn to the left, drawing your abdomen across your ribs, your shoulders, keeping the neck soft. Just breathing deep, even inhalations and exhalations. Turn back to the center. Just feel how you have just brought your spine to life a little, brought some energy into the upper body, and then just stay on your lift and stretch your legs out. And then if you've got a belt handy, just keep your feet hip width apart and then swing the belt around your feet, and then push your feet really firmly into the belt. Now if you feel like the backs of your thighs are kind of stuck on the lift, then just shuffle forwards a little so that the backs of the thighs are free of the cushion that you're sitting on. And then notice that you can access your legs more willingly. So press the shins into the floor, lengthen from the backs of the knees down into the calves and down into the ankles. Lift up in the chest. Just breathing even deep inhalations and exhalations. And then, if there's no problem with your back, then just come forwards a little, just a little bit at a time. Pushing the legs really firmly into the floor, pushing the feet into the belt, pushing your legs into the belt. So from the hip into the heel, extend the legs away, using the belt around the feet to really activate the legs from the hips all the way into the heels. From the heels into the feet. If you can reach around your feet, then do. Just come forwards cautiously if you've got back problems. If you can get hold of your feet, try not to let your thumbs sit on the top of your foot. Take your thumbs around with the fingers. Lifting up, keeping the legs really firm. Breathing evenly. Just notice that as you come forwards, maybe it becomes more difficult to breathe in the abdomen. So lift the heart area more to make space. Activating the legs like you want to slam them down through the floor. And then just come back to the center and then bring the feet into parighasana. Have the belt underneath the outsides of the feet. And then this time you're lengthening the legs from the inner groins along the inner thighs, and then from the inner thighs around to the inner thighs to the inner knees, and then from the inner knees around to the outer knees, and then the outer legs kind of suck back into the body. So feel that there's that circular action in the legs, trying to draw your knees down to the floor, lifting up into your heart area. So give yourself enough belt so that you're not sinking the chest. You can lift and open and broaden the chest. Pushing the heels together so that the knees can separate. The knees can come down to the floor. And then just turn to the right side again, drawing your abdomen across and your ribs. If you can get hold of that knee, that right knee with the left hand, then do. Give yourself space so that you can still breathe into the armpit chest. Come back to the center. Just hold onto the belt again. Just reset the lift of the spine. And then turn to the left. Again, making space in the seat bones, in the upper chest. And then just come back to the center. And just bring your knees together, stretch your legs away, and then come up off your lift. Just come onto all fours. Have your hands as wide apart as the mat. So have your little fingers on the mat, edge of the mat, stretching the thumbs really broadly towards each other. Turn your toes under, and then come up into dog down. So continuing to focus on deep inhalations, deep exhalations. Just feel where your body is today. This is the first kind of big pose for the body. So the body will respond to it. So just see how your body is feeling this morning. Keep breathing from the bottom of the lungs to the top. And from the top of the lungs, exhaling down to the bottom. Activating the legs, tightening the kneecaps, turning the fronts of the thighs and the shins inwards from the little toe side to the big toe side so that the heels start to separate. Activate the thigh muscles, lifting them up towards the top of the leg, pressing the fronts of the thighs through to the backs of the thighs. Just stretching out your tiredness. Keep your hands where they are, keep your feet where they are, and swing your hips forwards. Come up into dog, up. Drawing the crease of the elbows to face the front so that the collarbone remains broad. Push into the heels, lift up into the heart area. And then go back up into dog down. Just observing how the body feels in the pose. So of course, where there are areas of intensity, of course you're going to focus on there, but can you focus beyond that intensity and scan the body for areas of dullness and aim to bring activation into those regions? And then step or jump your feet forwards, come up into a standing position. Grab yourself a couple of blocks for your hands for half uttanasana. And then bring your feet as wide apart as the mat. With your toes turning in so that the outside edge of your feet line up with the edge of your mat. Have your hands on your hips and then wing the elbows towards each other. Lift up into the heart area and hinge at the hips. Keep the head lifted. Keep driving forwards from the heart area. Keep the elbows winging behind you. And then when the torso is parallel to the floor, then reach down and find the blocks beyond fingertips. And activate your legs like you're in dog down, turning them inwards. Turning the fronts of the thighs inwards so that the backs of the thighs and the shins broaden outwards. Lift the kneecaps. Lift the thigh muscle right up into the hip socket. Tilt the tailbone and the seat bones up towards the ceiling, projecting the chin and the chest forwards. So it's the cow shape, isn't it? If you can go down any lower, then do. If you've got a bad back, then just come forwards with caution. Stay at the higher lift if necessary. If you can reach down to the floor, then do. Just listening to the breath. Breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. If you can reach around the backs of your heels, then do. Bending your elbows out to the side, drawing the body in towards the gap between the two legs. And then just release your hands back into half uttanasana, just extending the spine away. Just maintaining the observation of the activity of the legs and the arms and the torso, just making sure that there's even level of activity throughout the body, not just in the legs, not just in the spine, not just in the feet. And then bring your hands into your hips and then bend your knees on the way up if you need to. Come up into Tadasana. So lift up into the chest. Just feel that you can really elevate the heart area upwards, drawing your shoulders down away from your ears. Breathing evenly and deeply. out to the side, stretching out from the shoulders into the fingertips. And then bend your elbows in towards your chest, and then step or jump your feet apart for trikonasana. So keep lifting in the chest. So sometimes when you bring the legs apart, the chest wants to do this, wants to drop down. So keep lifting up into the chest, broadening the collarbone. Turn the left toes in slightly, the right leg and foot all the way out, and then straighten both legs, tightening the kneecaps, turning these thighs outwards, lifting up into the heart area, and then maintaining the length of the right side as you come down. Just find the shin and reach up to the top hand, turning the chest to face the ceiling, turning the abdomen to face the ceiling. Just look down as you head over your foot. If not, lift your chest a little more, squeeze that front leg buttock bone forwards a little more, keep that back leg resisting that forward action, and just look up. Just breathing long, slow, deep, deliberate breaths. Just observing perhaps if you had blocked sinuses before, how this starts to clear out the sinuses. And then come back to the centre, swap the feet around, turn the right toes in, the left leg and foot all the way out. So reactivating the legs, turning these legs from the inside of the groin to the outside of the hip, and then maintaining this left torso length as you reach over. So we will probably want to do that. You want to kind of shrink there. So press that thigh away from the armpit. Press the armpit away from the thigh on that left side. Just breathe evenly. Reach up with the top hand, come back to the centre, bring the feet parallel, and then step or jump your feet back together, and then come back into Tadasana, just feeling the energy in the chest. Observing how perhaps the sinuses have cleared a little. Breathing even deep inhalations and exhalations. And then just come down onto your knees for a moment, and then we're going to do parighasana. So it's the gate pose. So fold over the left side of your mat. You're just going to kneel on that left side. Have a block on the right side of the mat, on the front edge of the mat, so that you can reach it with your foot, and then kneel down on the backs of your, or the tops of your feet. So just stretch, sitting back in virasana. So just initially, just engage with how virasana feels for you today. So are you making good connections with the shins, or is there like a little bit around the bottom of the shin or the middle of the shin that kind of lifts up in a little archway? So can you just lengthen the shins away a little so that the shins come down? If you really can't keep your shins down in this pose, then get yourself a folded blanket and kneel on that, and have the whole of the foot on top of the blanket, and then you'll be able to hit your shins into the floor a little bit more easily. So lift up into the heart area, elevating the heart area to the ceiling, drawing your shoulders down to the floor. So really feel that you can press the shin bone into the shin skin, like we do in virasana right at the beginning of the session usually, to activate the legs. So feel that you can really press the shins into the floor, and then come up onto your knees and see if you can really consciously maintain the shin connection. Lift up into the chest, really work to press it. So you have to work hard to press those shins into the floor, don't you? And then bring your right knee forwards, and then again work to press that left shin into the floor. Use a blanket underneath your shin if you really can't keep that shin down. Bring the right knee out to the side, and then this trikonasana action of turning the thigh, that has to come into here. So if you start to turn this leg, you start to kind of open in the inner groin a little. Keep lifting up into the chest, keeping this left shoulder back, and then stretch over, and then bring your foot onto the thigh. So you want to be wide enough so that this hip doesn't stick out. So there's a slight kind of slant hip with this knee kind of, and the hip is slightly kind of further in to the other leg. Lift up into the chest. Keep this left shoulder rotating back, and then slide your hand down the leg like you're doing trikonasana. So, but this time I really want you to focus on turning the abdomen, turning the belly button, and then reach up with the top hand. Keep that left shin pressing really firmly down, looking underneath the armpit, and then see if you can reach over. That hand should be directly over the foot. If you can turn the palms face upwards so you can bend the elbow along the shin. Keep looking underneath the armpit. Again, another sinus clearer. So where is this top hand? Is it kind of forwards or back? Try and make it sure that it's over that top, over that right foot. Okay, come back to the center, bring your hands onto your hips, and then just sit yourself back on your heels. So parighasana, fairly intense pose really, isn't it? But you get this really good stretch along the left side of the body, but only if you really activate those shins, and that's really tricky, isn't it? So just swap all of the equipment over, and then this time, just so that we can feel the difference, let's use, so fold over the right side of the mat, but let's use a blanket for the shins. So hopefully you'll be able to feel the difference. Have the block on the left side, just at the front edge of the mat, and then just kneel down onto the folded blanket, and hopefully this will help you to really feel like you can activate your shins. So keeping your knees in line with the front edge of the mat, and we just use that front edge of the mat to help us to align into the pose. So just first of all, just really consciously activate your shins into the blanket. So even if your toes are just kind of hanging off the edge of the blanket, press your shins into the blanket. Just take a deep inhalation, and then as you come up onto your knees, try and keep those shins firmly down. So it's easier with the blanket, isn't it? Bring the left leg forwards. Keep pressing that shin firmly into the floor. And then turn. So bring the foot along the front edge of the mat, turning that shin. thigh even, turning the thigh. And then straighten the leg. And then just bring the foot onto the thigh. There should be this slight kind of incline here, not kind of sticking out. That should be slightly drawing in. Turning this thigh, sweeping the inner thigh across, keeping the right shoulder back, and then slide down the leg like you're doing trikonasana, turning the abdomen and the chest to face the ceiling. And then reach up and over, keeping that shin pressing into the floor so that you can open up in the hip. If you can turn the palm to face upwards, bending your elbow along the shin, and do. Keep that, make sure that that hand is directly over the foot. Look underneath the armpit and breathe. Feel the extension along that side, that right side. Okay, and then gently come back to the center, and then just sit back on your heels. So in the kind of in light on yoga, Mr. Iyengar's got, he's reaching over and he's got his hand on his toe. He's holding on to his foot. So that kind of shows you where we're going, but obviously that's, you know, probably a fair old distance away, isn't it? But we can still work on those incremental stages. Just come down, just lengthen out your mat again, and then just come into dog down. So just on all fours for a moment, and then just come up into dog down with the hands shoulder width apart and the feet hip width apart. Just breathing evenly and deeply. Just stretching out any tensions. Just listening to the sound of the breath. So observe your sinuses. Do they feel any clearer? Because those two poses are really beneficial for the sinuses. And then just come down onto your knees and then sit back on your heels. So we're going to do rajakapotasana, the pigeon pose. So you can, if you've got stiff hips, you can always use some extra lifts. So I'll just quickly show you. So pigeon pose is where you come onto all fours, bring that front knee forwards. I'll talk you through it as we go, and then you stretch this leg back. Now if you've got uncomfortable hips, then you might need to just prop yourself up on one side, but then prop yourself up on the other so that the hips are level. So you kind of get a block and then just insert it underneath the hip, just to help the hips feel even as you come down. So I'll talk you in and out of the pose, and then just use those blocks, have those blocks handy, or you can use folded blankets or whatever. So just have your hands underneath your shoulders and your knees underneath your hips, as if we're going to go to the cat and cow, and then lengthen into the toes. So from the knees into the toes, pressing the shins down. So just lifting in the chest slightly, just have a little wriggle, swing the hips from one side to the next, to the other, and then just allow that side hip area just to open up. So this is a fairly intense hip pose, so it's just nice to allow those hips to open, and then just come back to the centre. So this time we're going to bring the right knee to make contact with the right wrist, and then bring the right foot so that it's going to sit underneath the left hip, and then lengthen that left leg away and come up onto the fingertips, so using any supports that you might need. So level hips is really important in this pose, and so it's got to come from that back leg. That back leg has to do Tadasana action, so that Tadasana action of turning the front of the thigh inwards, like we do in Tadasana, that will help you to level out the hips. So turn the front of the thigh inwards, so that the back of the thigh feels like it broadens outwards, and this hip, this back hip, comes forwards as well. Lift up into the heart area. Breathing even deep inhalations and exhalations. And then just come down onto the heels of the hands, and then come down onto your elbows for a moment, just to rest out the hips. So just have a little wriggle in the hips. So we're going to go up into that one more time, but this time we're going to bend the left toes up to the ceiling, and then try and reach and get hold of those toes with the with the right hand. But that's quite strong, so if you've got a bad back especially, then you'll just want to just go back into normal rajakapotasana without reaching back. So just have a little wriggle in the hips while you're here, and then just come back up into the back bending stage. So turning that back thigh really consciously inward so that the hips feel level, lifting up into the heart area, walking that leg away from the body a little. And then if you want to go to the next stage, you're going to point the toes of that left foot up towards the ceiling behind you, and then reach with the right hand, get hold of that foot, and then lift up into the chest. Try not to let that right shoulder kind of go back too much. Try and keep the shoulders level. Push the hand into the foot into the hand, lift up into the chest. Okay, and then just release. And then bring the palms of the hands down onto the floor, and then just walk in with the back leg, and then come back to the centre. So fairly intense, just have a little wriggle about in the hips again, just bringing the hips from one side to the other, so you really open up those side ribs. And then come back to the centre, and then just reset. Hands underneath shoulders, knees underneath hips, and then we'll do the left side. So bring that left knee to make contact with the left wrist, making the left foot come underneath the right hip, and then start to walk that right leg away. Come up onto the fingertips, turning that back leg, and then lifting up into the chest. Lengthening the heart area up towards the ceiling, keeping the shoulders down. And then just rest on your elbows for a moment, just have a little wriggle about in the hips. And then we'll do that same pose again, and if you want to, you can extend into the next stage where you reach back for the right foot. So just come back up into the pose again, lifting up into the chest, and then bend that right leg, pointing the toes towards the ceiling. Reach behind you with the left arm, and then try and bring that left shoulder so that it's level with the right shoulder. Push the hand into the foot into the hand, lifting up into the chest. Just breathing evenly, lengthening from the hip into the knee of that back leg. And then release, bring the palms flat down onto the floor, bend, walk that right foot in, and then come back onto your heels, onto your knees, and then sit back on your heels. Just lift up into the chest. Just observe how much you've opened out the hips. Keep the abdomen lifting away from the hips as you come forward into Adho Mukha virasana. So coming forwards with a lifted heart area, and finally bringing the forehead down. So work to keep the seat bones in connection with the heels. Keep really working to the arms. That's the only way you stretch out the spine. Turning the tailbone in, maintaining that connection between the seat bones and the heels. If you're losing the connection, like I am a little today, then you can put a folded blanket between the seat bones and the heels, and then you can really hit back. And then the forward extension becomes more firmly grounded. Okay, and then just bring your hands underneath your shoulders and then push yourself back up into a seated position, just lifting up into the chest. Just observing the energy that you've created so far. And then come down onto your back. Come down onto your back, fold the feet as close to the seat bones as you can, and just for a moment or two have the feet apart and the knees together, just to really rest out the hips, rest out the lower part of the back. Just breathing evenly and deeply, listening to the breath. And then draw your knees in towards your chest. Just have a little rock from side to side, from top to bottom. And then just bring the feet in line with the seat bones. Bring them right down onto the floor. Have the feet as close to the seat bones as you can. And then keep the left foot where it is. Bring the right knee in towards the chest, just gripping around the front of the knee, pulling that knee in towards the chest. Just breathing evenly, deeply, and then bring that right foot across the top of the left thigh. So it's supta kapotasana. It's the pigeon pose again, but it's a reclining version. Hold on to that right foot with the left hand, and then just encourage that right knee to lengthen away from the body, so you start to feel that you kind of open up in the front of the leg, front of the groin. Just breathe even, deep inhalations and exhalations. So bring the foot into the hip if you can. Try and bring the inner heel into the inside of the pelvic bone if you can. If you can't, then just put the foot anywhere along that left thigh. So sometimes the higher up you go, the more you feel the pose. If you can bring the foot down into the inner groin, then do. And then leave that right foot in the on top of the left thigh. Reach and take hold of the back of the left knee, and then draw that left knee in towards the chest, so that you open up the back of the hip on the right side. So just breathing evenly and deeply. You can bring the foot closer to the knee, just to strain, just to move the stretch around a little bit. But the higher the foot comes to the knee, the kind of harder it is on the knee. So ideally that foot stays close to the hip, but sometimes it's good to just stretch it out a little more by bringing it close to the knee. And then just release and bring both feet flat back onto the floor. Just keep your right foot as close to the seat bone as you can get it, and then bring the left knee in towards the chest. Just reach around that front of the knee and pull the knee in towards the chest. So you're just stretching out the hip. And then bring that left foot across the right thigh and in towards the inner pelvic bone. Have the heel in the inner pelvic bone if you can, or just wherever you can reach on the leg. Hold on to that left foot with your right hand, and then again encourage that left knee to stretch away from the body, opening up the front of the pelvis. And then gently release. And then reach around the back of the right knee and pull that right knee in towards your chest. Just feeling the stretch of the hamstrings on that left leg. Pulling the knee in towards the chest of the right side. Keeping both seat bones or both hips down on the floor evenly. So you're lengthening out into the tailbone, trying to keep the tailbone down on the floor. Okay, and then just gently release, just uncross the knee, and then just pull both knees in towards your chest. Just have a little rock from side to side, from top to bottom. And then rock yourself up into a seated position, or roll onto your right side and sit yourself up if necessary. And then just come up into cross legs. Hold onto your knees and elevate the heart area to the ceiling. Just spend a few moments just to observe your energy, to observe the flow of energy within the body. Maybe to observe the clarity of the sinuses. Lifting up into the heart area, and then gently turn into the right side, drawing your abdomen across the ribs and your shoulders. And then come back to the center, lift up into the heart area, take a deep inhalation, and then turn to the left. back to the centre. Just come down onto your back and then just hold onto the edges of the mat for a moment and then extend your legs up to the ceiling for viparita karahni. If you find it difficult to stretch your legs, then you can put a block just underneath the small of the back and then raise your legs, and you'll probably find it's easy to lift the chest and definitely easier to lift the legs. Just a gentle inversion. And then when you're ready, bend your knees. Bring your feet onto the floor and then lift yourself up. And then just one more time, just have a little, pull your knees in towards your chest, just have a little wiggle about. Just make sure that you give yourself a good massage in the spine. And then get your blanket, bring it underneath your head, support the back of your neck and the back of your head. Just come up onto your elbows, make sure you're in a really good straight line right down the centre of the mat. If you're wearing glasses, just take them off. If you can, just to let the face relax. And then just allow yourself to release into the floor. Just let go of the muscles of the arms and the legs. Letting the body become heavy on the floor. So that requires that you let go of the muscles in order to find that heaviness. Because out of that heaviness arrives a feeling of genuine lightness, radiating out from the bones and into the muscles, into the organs, into the flesh and the skin. Use your in-breath and your out-breath to distribute that feeling of energetic lightness evenly into the toes, into the fingers, and into the top of the head. Just basking in that feeling of energetic lightness. Basking in that feeling of energetic lightness. ready to disturb yourself, just gently wiggle your toes, wiggle your fingers, and bring your knees in towards your chest. Just have a little rock from top to bottom, from side to side, just a gentle massage on the spine, and then when you're ready, just gently roll over onto your right side and just stay down for a breath or two. And then straighten out the top leg, come back up into a seated position. Just a final cross legs with your hands in the masti, a final spinal lift. Just drawing your breath in through your nose and down into the abdomen. Be conscious of the energy that you have released through your practice this morning, that good, positive, healthy flow of clean energy that the extensions and the forward bends and the twists, the back bends and the reclining poses bring to the body and to the mind. And then draw your chin down to meet your chest. Just spend a moment to acknowledge the positive energy you've created inside, and then radiate some of that positive energy out into the world. And then release the backs of your hands down toward your knees, palms facing upwards. And as you raise your head, allow your eyes to softly open and the focus to softly come back. Thank you very much. So hopefully you feel as though you've really lifted your energy and you've stretched out tension and stiffness from your body. So thank you very much for joining me. Have a great day.